Welcome to another episode of What Has My Attention. And today I've got the pleasure of having Shannon Dalton Giordano. We were playing with her name early before we start recorded. And I met Shannon through Eileen Cox. And Eileen I met through actually Mary Kravitz, watchusthrive.com, workshops. Have you actually been to that, Shannon?
I haven't actually, no.
No, it's really well. Mary does a really, really excellent job. So anyway, it's like we had an initial conversation a week or so ago. Shannon and I did, and it was a great conversation. And you started talking about this thing called tone of voice, and you have been pivoted. You've been pivoting yourself a little bit, right?
I have, yeah, many times through my life, but I think in the past year definitely have made a bit of a pivot.
Yeah. So if you want to find out more about Shannon, just go to serendipitysocialmedia.com. And I'll mention it again at the end. And remind me if I don't, but I probably will. So regarding what has your attention, we discussed tone of voice. So I'm just kind of curious. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that all means, tone of voice? I mean, I love it because I'm in audio. So tone of voice really has my attention.
Exactly. I think about it on so many levels. I am someone who loves music. I'm a singer, love to sing just for fun, not for profession. So I think about tone of voice that way. But I really think about tone of voice is how we show up. It's the words we
Mm.
use. It's the way we talk. It's the way we treat people. And I think that certainly from a brand perspective, that often brands don't think about their tone of voice enough.
Hmm. And you're talking about the written word. Is that right?
Yeah, I am talking about the written word. So it sounds funny since tone really makes it sound like it's going to be something audible. But I mean, yeah, the words that you're using on social media, in blog posts, in advertising, the ways that you talk to people, and it
Hmm.
really thinking about how do you want people to view you? Do you want them to see you as warm and inviting and inclusive? Do you want to be fun? Do you want to be snarky? Do you want to be cutting edge? There's all sorts of ways you can impact your tone of voice so that people understand who you are and how you're trying to show up.
Hmm. So do you recommend people start from a place of being themselves?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think we talked a little bit about this before, but that's one of
Yep.
the gifts of COVID that I'm seeing on social media is that people are showing up as themselves in a much more real way. I mean, you even have, major banks advertising about what their people are doing, during COVID to stay healthy, to stay connected. So I see a lot of good behavior, fewer stock
Hmm.
images, fewer, people trying to hide behind everything being perfect and instead coming forward and using words that really describe who they are.
Yeah, especially during a time of COVID, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's my experience is it has stopped a lot of people. Well, it stopped myself. I won't talk about anybody else. I'll talk about my own experience and say that I just found myself. Well, the only thing I had to really consider in terms of pivoting, I wasn't interested in pivoting, doing anything else. And Mary Kravitz actually was really good at that in the beginning. She started watchusthrive.com and she said right off at the top, don't even think about pivoting to another business. You really want to start another business? Just take your business and figure out a different way of doing it. So
Yeah.
for me, I had a studio. Well, I still have a studio, but it's been closed. So I had to figure out a way to actually create high quality remote recording, which I was able to do. And it was not that challenging for me, but it was
Mm.
actually a lot of fun. But, and what I've been focusing on lately, just people know this, is that I've been really focusing on writing myself. And I joined Kent Sanders' Daily Writer group. And then you, per my request, have been sending me some of the writings, and I've really been enjoying them you know so back to tone of voice. You have a wonderful tone of voice, you really
Oh,
do.
thank you. Thank you. I think it's about storytelling. It's sort of like, I liken it back to Seinfeld. Seinfeld was a show about nothing, but they filled this half hour with the most like kind of informational, interesting, fun, quirky stuff.
Yeah.
So you just think about, like this podcast, what's on your mind right now, and then figure out how to tell that through a story.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have a couple of books that I'm just really leading with in my life, and one of them is Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand.
Mm.
So stories had a big, it's just been eye-opening for me in terms of how to create a story. So you want to talk a little bit more about how you approach a story?
Yeah, sure. So, I kind of start from what's the thing that I'm trying to share. And then I try to think about what in my life, why is that meaningful to me? And usually it bubbles up some story, whether it's about, music, or whether it's about a family member or training my dog or whatever it is, to try to use an anecdote to connect with people, because I think it does two things. It really gets the point I'm trying to make across, but it also lets them have a little glimpse into my personality, who I am, like
Mm.
what I think is important, what I think is interesting.
Yeah, what's your dog have to do with serendipity socialmedia.com?
I
So
know. It's like, yeah.
actually, how does it relate?
Well, for me, it was this it's kind of a humbling moment, of trying to train my dog. I have this great dog. Her name's Gracie. She's a Chinook. She's a sled dog. She's gorgeous, but she's all over the place. She's jumping up on people. She's full of love. And so I realized that I wasn't being consistent with her. I was kind of having her jump up on me, and I thought it was so great. And then she would jump up on someone else, and I would tell her, no, don't do that. That's terrible. And then I realized it's the same sort of thing we do when we're trying to show up on social media too. If you're not consistent, if you're not,
Mm.
out there as often as you can be and sharing consistent messaging, then it's confusing. People don't know who you are. They don't know why they'd want to buy your services.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Good. So, yeah. So in the stories you've been sending me, it's like there's this thread, and it just has me. I actually get them in an email, and then I send them to my iPad, and then at night that's kind of my nighttime reading things, which I really really enjoy.
Oh, that's
So
great.
have you seen a shift in social media, and are you still working in social media? Because I got in our initial conversation that there's been some changes for you.
Yeah, so pre-COVID, I was mainly a marketing arm for a small business or entrepreneur, so writing all of their social media posts. And I
Mm-hmm.
still do that to a degree, but for the most part now, I'm doing much more with strategy sessions, trying to help business owners and entrepreneurs figure out their strategy. Because I think a lot of people keep trying things on social media and not
Mm.
understanding why they don't work. And sometimes it can just be a really easy, small switch, whether it's just that everything you're posting is promotional, so people are tuning you out, or
Right.
maybe you think you're getting your message across, but it really doesn't make sense and people don't know what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been spending a lot more time trying to get under the covers with business owners to figure out what are they doing now and how to put a strategy in place that makes sense for them, and also how to read the analytics and insights and understand what's working and what's not. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we all just keep trying to do the same thing over and over again. What's that
Right.
definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So
Yes. Yes. So what do you find the most in the mistakes, or the most common mistakes that people make in social media, or businesses make in social media?
I think one of the biggest is confusing brand messaging. So you're all over the place talking about all kinds of
Mm.
different things. I've worked with a client who did a lot of trying to highlight other businesses, which is a wonderful thing to do in your community. And I highly recommend doing that. But if you only do that, then people don't know what you do.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. They follow your post, they like your post, but they're never going to hire you or buy something from you because they really don't know what you do, because all you do is feature a different community member every week on your social media. So, trying to work in how do you bring your brand messaging in.
Mm-hmm.
Other times, I think it's a lot of promotional posts. And so people like, oh, buy this product. This is a great product. I love this product. Buy this product. And so even people who love you get tired of that kind of messaging and they
I
kind of tune
certainly
it
do.
out. Yeah.
I do. I do. I mean, a lot of times I'll sign up for a newsletter, and next thing you know, I have 3 emails a week, sometimes twice
Yeah.
a day. And I stay for, I don't know, maybe a week to just read some of it, but then I opt out.
Yeah.
You know, even,
Absolutely.
and I decided actually in my email campaigning, I decided no more than once every 2 weeks.
Mm.
And if people want more information, they can opt into another feed to get more information. But just don't inundate people right off the bat.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's much more effective to tell stories that are targeted to the pain points of the clients that you want to
Mm-hmm.
reach. So
Mm-hmm.
then they see themselves in your stories without you even having to say, buy this thing, hire me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it also shows your level of empathy for them,
Mm,
which empathy is a big part of, really connecting with people. So like,
absolutely.
it's like, I've been to member of the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, and they do First Friday breakfasts. And specifically last year, there was one this morning. It was a great presenter. But typically, out of the 11 they do in a year, there's really only about maybe 3 that I just don't find myself tuning out of.
Yeah.
And largely it's because they get up, and this is kind of equates to social media and marketing, but they get up and they spend 10 minutes talking about everything they've done that's great.
Mm,
And a lot of times it's something that happened 20 years ago
yeah.
where somebody that gets up and basically says, 2 years ago, I was living in my car. And then people go, what? And then the story kind of evolves. And a lot of those people in the audience have been through some of these struggles and concerns and fears about, oh my God, am I going to make it, or am I going to have to live in my car? So
Right.
there's a whole connection thing. And then the story, usually evolves into something they did that really made a difference and a change.
Yeah, I think that's so much more interesting. I mean, you have me right off the bat if you say 2 years ago you were living in your car. I just, because no matter what the journey took you those 2 years, I'd love to know about it. That,
Yeah.
much more interesting than, I
Yeah.
have an MBA from Harvard or whatever.
Yeah. 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 So I'm really curious about the program you have because I honestly want to promote it. And I think it's really awesome. So do you work mostly with people that already have a social media presence, or new people? People that are
I,
just, hey
yeah,
Shannon, I want to start doing social media. I mean, do you work with those people too?
I do. I do work with the newbies. I would say my sweet spot is someone who feels like they're all over social media and it's just not working. Because
Mm,
that's where I can kind of come in. I have this half day, I call it a half day VIP strategy session. So I
nice.
do an hour's worth of work, lots of research on what you're doing now, what your competitors are doing, and then we come together in 3 hours and hammer out a social media strategy and content calendar that's going to set you up for the next 3 months. And then from there, of course, I have add-ons where I can meet with people on a quarterly basis and kind of look back to what they're doing, see what else they should do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's fun. I love to do that. But I always will help if someone says to me, I really don't know what I'm doing. Can you spend an hour or two to help me get going? Because sometimes there are very small things that they seem very intuitive to me because I live in those systems every day. But to someone
Mm-hmm.
who's not logging in a lot, it's not intuitive.
Mm-hmm. So do you do a lot of the writing or any of the adjustments yourself, or do you have people that do that, or you work with their team?
Yeah. So the folks that I'm coaching, then they then go off and do the writing themselves, and I help them strategically figure out what to do. I do have writers that I send people to as well if they want ongoing social media. I
Mm-hmm.
myself do a lot of writing as well. So I'll revamp someone's LinkedIn profile. I love to work on that with someone to try to figure out. I call it the about section is like your superpower section. It's where you have to talk in the first person and tell about yourself. So there's fun things that like point in time kinds of writing that I do. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the ongoing month to month writing posts every day. I tend to have folks, partners that I work with on that.
Yeah, that's really nice. Now I'm going to segue into a question that's just strange. When is the last time you just couldn't stop laughing?
Oh my gosh, I laugh all the time.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's really funny. I have my best friend from college lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We don't see each other all that often, but this past year, my dad passed away, and I was feeling kind of low. So I
Sorry.
texted her and said, just send me all your funny stuff. So she videos herself in funny situations, or she sends me funny memes and graphics that she finds. And for some reason, we have exactly the same sense of humor. We are
Mm-hmm.
different as night and day, but we have exactly the same sense of humor. And so I laugh all the time. And sometimes I just open the chat from her and just look at what she's done. But she'll do a video of herself waking up in the morning with her hair all crazy and anyway, she just silly,
Yeah.
silly laughter. But we had great adventures in college and we continue, but now we're from afar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like a personal feed, very much like TikTok. A lot of people get on TikTok just to laugh. At least I do. I
Exactly.
mean, the cat videos are really, really fun. I've
They
been,
are. I love TikTok. Yeah. We use an app too called Marco Polo. I don't know if you've used that, but
yeah, I've
it's like
heard
a
of it.
video. Yeah, it's like a video messaging app, which is really fun. You're not on at the same time really, but you're videoing to each other, which
Yeah.
is fun.
No, it sounds fun. I was going to say the TikTok, the one I've been following lately is this couple, young couple, and they have 2 cats, and the guy like well, the other day he released a video and it's like she walks into the bedroom and he's laying down on the bed with like slices of cucumbers on his eyes and stuff. And the cat is sitting right beside him under the covers with cucumbers on his eyes. And she goes, "What are you doing?" And he says, "We're having a spa day."
Oh my
And
gosh.
then she tries to take the cucumbers off the cat's eyes, and the cat bites her and slaps at her and "Leave me alone. I'm having a spa day."
The cat
So,
wants a spa day. I love it.
yeah, yeah. Which is, it's like, yeah, we'll maybe talk later about it, but at some point I want to bring some humor into my social feed because that's who I am. It's not who I am, but it is a part of who I am because I do have a saying, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it,
Yep.
or I'll make it fun.
I love that. And you can
Yeah.
do that with stories on Instagram and on Facebook because those stories are much more meant to be kind of behind the scenes,
Hmm.
a day in the life, what I'm doing behind the scenes. You can make them really fun.
Yeah, that's great. So in social media, what's recently had your attention in terms of, because it seems to always be in change,
It is always in
in flux.
change. There's a few things there's good and bad. So the good that's had my attention, I really enjoy TikTok. I really enjoy Reels. So on Instagram, Reels is
Yeah.
sort of the answer to TikTok and I go down rat holes. I love to watch the animal ones. I love to watch the dance ones too. I guess because I have 16-year-old twin boys and I see some of these moms with their kids doing these great dance moves and I think, "Oh my gosh, I would make such a fool out of myself." So I really do go down a rat hole with that. I love it. On the negative side, what has my attention, which I'm trying to decipher and figure through for my clients, is Facebook has decided that they're going to get rid of the Insights tab. They don't care about reporting on organic reach necessarily for businesses and individuals anymore. Now, I think they're going to have new answers for that through Business Manager. So if your
Mm.
account is set up properly, you'll be okay. But I've got to figure it out. I've got to get to the bottom of it because I'm constantly telling people they need to look at their insights and they should know their insights. And if I can't say that anymore, I need
Yeah.
to have a backup plan.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm not a big fan of Facebook, and I'll just be transparent and say I just do not approve of Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg's behavior or the business model. And then people say, I have to because that's where I get my business. So how do you answer that question? I mean, you're in the business of that in a sense, but
Right.
how do you come to terms with this? I'm just curious.
Well, the first thing I would say is if a client ever says to me, I hate a certain platform, whatever it is,
Uh-huh.
I'm on Twitter, but I hate Twitter. I always say, you really shouldn't be on a platform you hate. Really. I mean,
Right.
or you
Yeah.
just shouldn't be spending your time or pay somebody else to do it for you because honestly, it's a lot of time we put into social media. So if you're on a
Hmm.
platform you hate, that's terrible. I think the goodness in Facebook right now I see is in Facebook groups. So being able to establish a group where you get to share your message with people who really want to hear it, or being part of groups. I get my best advice from I'm in a couple of groups from an alumni association where I went to college, and if I need to know what surgeon should my son go to for a surgery that's upcoming, or like get really personal advice, I look to those groups and I find a lot of support and meaning in them. So I think that
Yep.
there's some good there. But, Facebook business pages, it can just be a destination. You could have a
Hmm.
Facebook business page, you can post to it occasionally. If it's not where you love, then you should be on Instagram or Twitter
Hmm.
or wherever you love to be.
Yeah. So when you have a group, it does require spending time there, right?
It does. It really does. So, maybe it's just that you can be targeted with your time. Because I do work with a lot of people too who say, "Oh, I don't want to be on social media all day." So you have to come up with a strategy that works, whether it's that you're going to get notifications to your phone if something's on fire, but otherwise just check it from 8:30 to 9 a.m. every day. That's it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
don't think about it on the weekends.
Hmm.
So you don't have to be on it 24/7.
Hmm. Hmm. I know there's some tools with Facebook that you like add-ons for Chrome that kind of take away a whole lot of distraction. Are you aware of those?
I don't use those, to be honest with you. I guess I love the distraction. So
Oh, you love the distraction. I love it.
well,
Yeah.
I'm sort of like a squirrel chasing an acorn over here and an acorn over there. I have to be careful with that. But yeah,
Yeah. So is that ADD?
I don't have ADD actually. I don't know. I think it's just that I'd love to think about a lot of things at the same time. I get bored if I'm
Yep.
just too honed in and focused. I like to just be kind of have a lot of plates spinning on poles at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was diagnosed with what I call the gift of ADD. So, and I'm okay with it. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of I have to stay away from certain things, distractions. And I'm the guy that loves to, well, it used to be pre-COVID, be at Starbucks like a lot of times, a couple times a week, just to be around a whole buzz of people And
Mm.
that's, I really, really enjoyed that.
You get energy from that for sure. Yeah, I think ADD is really common. I see, I mean,
It
obviously
is.
raising twin boys, I see their different learning styles. We all have such learning differences, the way we take in information, the way we process it, the way we share it, where our
Yeah.
attention goes. So I think there's a big spectrum for all of us.
Yeah. In our first conversation, I mentioned to you, I have a twin sister.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm actually very close to her, and we text each other every morning just to make sure that each of us are on this side of the sod.
Oh,
It's
I love
just,
that.
yeah, it's just a little thing. Sometimes
That's
it's a
nice.
weather report coming from, she's in Washington State, and I'm, of course, in Southern California. So I'm always like, no, it's not 27 here. Today it's supposed to be 65. And then she swears at me.
I'm sure she does.
Yeah. So talking about being all over the map, back to social media. So I'm curious, what would you, from your view, like to see happen in social media? Or even to take it a step further, if you were going to have a platform, what would it look like?
I think that part of this is because I'm Gen X, right? I'm not a digital native. The
Hmm.
two things I see, I hope that people still keep showing up authentically and sharing and in that way, and that gone are the days where you have to say, my kid has straight A's and he just hiked Kilimanjaro and he's going on full scholarship to Harvard. I think those days are gone, which is great.
Good.
Um, yeah, right.
It's
But
really a problem. I mean, because then people are comparing themselves and getting depressed about it.
yeah, it's just false. It's not real. We have to remind ourselves of that all the time. That's not real. So I think that sharing authentically is one thing to stay. And if I was designing the perfect platform, I would also say don't be on social media 15 hours a day. I mean,
Mm.
your phone doesn't have to be attached to your hand. You can let it go. Like I really do try to unplug at night. I always say to clients, if you need me, text me or call me because I may not look at my email or anything on social media from 7 o'clock on. And I'm the same on the weekends. If I can be out watching one of my kids play soccer or something like that, I'd rather do that than sit on social
Yeah.
media all day. So I think social media is a fantastic medium for connection and for sharing business information, but we don't have to do it all day long, 7 days a week. And it's okay to step away from it.
So, like being a member of the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce would be like me hanging out the chamber all day.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you go down these rabbit holes, right? Where
Yeah.
you're just continually consuming information. And at the end of the day, you have a headache and you think, why do I have a headache? Well, because I just had my face in my computer or my phone all day. So I do think that it's a perfect tool, but it's just one tool in our toolbox. And there are lots of others. And hopefully we will get to go back to meeting
Yeah.
people face to face sometime soon too.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. I've heard that on average, a person receives, if they're on social media and hooked up with their phone and all the rest of it, they receive 3,000 marketing messages a day.
Wow.
It's just
Yeah.
like, you got to unplug from that.
You do, absolutely, because you start to believe you need things that you don't need. And you're not making real connection when you're just, constantly yeah, I had to do a photo shoot recently for a website upgrade. So I was I've been purchasing different things that I thought I could wear or use for the photo shoot, and now I'm getting so many more advertisements. But
Mm,
it is amazing that targeting and retargeting it's real, and you just do have to kind of step away.
yeah. Good. What recommendations do you have for somebody that's actually starting out brand new? I think you may have covered it a little bit, but let's just say I wanted to do some social media for my business.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing you need to know is where do the people you're selling to spend their time?
And how do you find that out?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends. There's lots of different ways to find it out. You can find it out based on what other people who do what you do are doing. So if
Hmm.
they're all over Instagram, you probably need to be as well. You also do it based on age, right? So if you're only
Hmm.
selling to millennials, you probably don't need to be on Facebook at all. Um, but if you are selling to people, mid 30s and up, you probably need to have a Facebook business page and have an Instagram profile. I tell people it's always a good idea to update and optimize your LinkedIn profile. You don't
Hmm.
have to have a company LinkedIn page, but your page itself should describe exactly who you are. Should be
Hmm.
optimized with keywords. So your titles, like when I first started my business, I talked to this LinkedIn expert and I had put myself as CEO and founder of Serendipity Social Media. And she said to me, no one is searching for you under CEO and founder, Shannon, unless you're Steve Jobs. They're not
Yeah.
searching for you that way. So I changed it to brand strategist, idea generator, partner, business partner. So you want to use words in your title section that are things that people would search for you. So if you have
Uh-huh.
a good solid LinkedIn profile and then Facebook page and Instagram, I think you're in good shape.
Uh-huh. Do you have any courses up people can take, or are you just leading with the VIP?
Yeah, I do a lot of workshops. So I can do
Okay.
kind of point in time workshops. I have one on Facebook ad campaigns. I have one on hashtag usage, creating a master hashtag list. And they're not recorded yet. So that's sort of on my 2020 to-do list is to create. I do have a 4-week program too, which is like we talk about tone of voice, creating a strategy, writing great content, and then understanding analytics. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
recording those as 4 modules as well, but they're not quite ready for prime time.
Oh, good. Well, you will let us know when they're done, right?
I will. Sure thing.
Yeah, because I just really want to help myself and also help other people, help them,
Mm,
point
absolutely.
them point them to you. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. I may have already asked you, but I'll ask again, which is give me an idea of a time in your life where you had what might be called a defining moment, like where everything kind
Ooh.
of changed for you. And if you have, how many are you thinking of right now?
Oh my gosh, so many. Um,
It's a good thing.
yeah. So when I was young, I wanted to be Carole King, and so I remember
Car-
marching up. I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, I wanted. She was my ideal. So I marched up to the chorus director at my elementary school and said, "I want a solo. I want to sing Maybe from Annie." She said,
Hmm.
"Okay." So I did, and that kind of thread through the rest of my years in school was anytime I could be in a musical theater production or sing, I did it. And then, gosh, there have been a lot. I mean, graduating from college and graduate school were big for me. I was the first one in my family to go to college, so I'm first gen. I have lots of cousins who've come after me who've gone to college, and my mom actually went to college after me. But those were big moments. I was really proud of myself, and I feel like I went to Mount Holyoke College, a women's college, and I feel like it changed my life. It was one of the best
Mm.
things I've ever done. And then, of course, marrying my husband, and then
Yay.
having my babies. It took me a long
Yay.
time to get pregnant, so having twins in 2004 was, pretty fabulous.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, regarding music, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I have a interesting background in music. I mean, it was like when I was a kid, it's like at the age of 14, everybody was like getting in bands. And it
Yeah,
was like The Doors and Led Zeppelin and Cream and that genre. And so I had this kid walk up to me and my friend of mine says, "We're putting a band together. We need a bass player. Do you play bass?" I said, "I do." "Great. We're going to have a rehearsal Saturday." So I went home and went to the bank and got my lawn mowing money out of the bank and bought a Gibson EB3, which was a bass guitar, and a Sun 200S, which was an amp. And that weekend I was in a band. So
oh,
it
that's
was like,
awesome.
kind of like what you just mentioned. It's just like, I want to sing. Okay, great. Now you got to like go sing. Now you got to like prep. Now you got to do this, that. And that's not exactly how I got into podcasting, but sort of.
Mhm.
So it's just like put it out there. That's what I want to do. And then just find a way to make it happen.
Yep, absolutely. I think we talked about that. I love this quote, and I can never remember exactly how to say it, but it's like bravery or courage is like jumping off a cliff and building your wings on the way down. And I feel like, yeah, that's
I've
exactly what,
never heard that.
yeah, I have to look it up so I can properly attribute it, but I love that quote.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. So then I also ended up working with Chris Calloway, Cab Calloway's daughter. Cab Calloway was the guy. I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Blues Brothers.
Hmm.
So Cab comes out in a white tux singing "Minnie the Moocher."
Yeah.
Okay, so I toured with Chris. She did the Cab Calloway Legacy show, and she was professional, and she was incredible performer. And
Wow.
yeah, so I worked with singer and songwriters, and one of her protege was a woman named Mari Sato, and she was half Irish and half Japanese.
Oh, wow.
And she was literally raised in a cabin in, I want to say Arkansas or someplace, and the blues were really deep in her. So it's,
Wow.
yeah, so I just love working with singer songwriters. And actually our voice coach her name is Peggy Lebo, and she's a singer songwriter, very well known down here, and worked with Randy Jackson for a period of time, people like
Oh,
that.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's still every morning. I'm always listening to music. So I'm just sort of curious, who are you listening to these days? Anybody
Oh
new
gosh,
or
I love
no?
so many different kinds of music.
Me too. I
I
listen to
love
everything.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I love Sarah Bareilles. I listen to
Yep.
her over and over again. I love the soundtrack from the musical Waitress. I love the soundtrack from Dear Evan Hansen. Any given day, you could probably hear me belting out those tunes in my kitchen as I unload the dishwasher. Um,
Could I get
gosh,
you to use a portable recorder to record some of that?
maybe we'll
We'll
see.
just put it at the end of the podcast, you know?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Anita Baker. Big fan of Carole King. Still could listen to her all day long, every day. James Taylor, Carly Simon. Cat
Yeah.
Stevens.
Oh, Cat
Oh,
Stevens.
Fleetwood Mac. Love Fleetwood Mac. Listen to that over and
Yeah.
over again. Stevie Nicks. Love her.
Yeah. I was, I'd lived in Santa Fe most of my adult life and lived outside of Santa Fe in a little town. And there was this restaurant there, a little store. And I used to go in there like twice a week for breakfast. I lived on 1,500 acres at the time, and
Oh, wow.
with a roommate and my dog Maggie, who was Malamute and Coyote mix. And so I go down to or I can't remember the name of the place. Anyway, so yeah, James Taylor used to hang out there. I had
Oh,
breakfast with
man.
him several times. And this was 1987, 88, something like that. And that's when a lot of the quote unquote movie stars and people were hanging in Santa Fe, and nobody bothered them. It was
That's
just like they
amazing.
were just like normal people. Got to know Allie McGraw really well.
Oh,
She was
wow.
she was a big animal rights activist, and met Joni Mitchell at the post office once.
Wow.
So I've never been enamored by, movie stars or CEOs or none of that stuff at all. They're just people.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's great, though.
Yeah. So who do you sound mostly like?
Um, on a
You've got
good
to,
day, if I'm in a
yeah.
really good voice, probably Sarah Bareilles, maybe Carly Simon. But
Nice.
honestly, it depends
W-
on the day. In the
ca-
shower.
In the shower. The shower is always great. Is there any place we can hear you sing online?
Oh, probably not. Gosh, I'm trying to think the last time I sang in public. Um, it's been a while. Circle Game. I think I sang Circle Game at my
Oh,
mother's 70th birthday party.
oh,
So yeah,
nice.
it's been a while. It's funny, I had this whole Irish folk singing period as well. So I did a bunch of singing of Irish folk songs, but no, it's been a long time. I don't think there's anything out there. I'm a little pre social media, so there wouldn't be all these recordings out there.
Right. Yeah, I wish that, not wish, but it would be a completely different world had all this stuff existed back in our days.
Yeah.
I do remember when I first started podcasting in 2005, I had a portable recorder and I took it and had it on a lot. Just because I was fascinated by the idea of capturing a conversation and just being a fly on the wall kind of
So
a
you were
thing.
podcasting before podcasting was a thing.
Yeah, it was in the transition of going from audio blogging
Yep.
to Steve Jobs calling it podcasting.
Yeah.
And then Leo Laporte tried to rename it netcasting, and that never flew.
Mm.
So it still is podcasting.
Yep.
Yeah, I started very, very early. Absolutely loved it. And just briefly, I started when I discovered what's called the RSS2 feed. And I looked at this code on the Netscape browser, probably back then it was Netscape. And I saw this reference to an MP3, and it was this guy, Dave Weiner, who was the creator of the RSS2 specification that allowed a reference to an MP3 file to be embedded in the feed text file. I think I just probably went over someone's head. But, but I followed the MP3, and he was having a conversation with the buddy of his in a cafe in Florida one morning. And you could literally hear him say, "Do you mind if we record our conversation?" And then he had the conversation. I'm sitting there going, "What is this stuff?"
Yeah.
And then in 2005, I met a gentleman at a party named Jeffrey Milburn. He had an art forum called Omni Art. And he told me a story about being in New York City at a New Year's Eve party. and everybody was doing like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, except for Jeffrey and one other guy that was sitting on the couch with him, and it was Andy Warhol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they became really, really good friends, and Andy believed that Jeffrey's omni-art form, which was kind of a new age consciousness, three-dimensional, hang-off-the-wall kind of a thing, might be the next big thing in art. And then Andy went in for a medical procedure and died in the recovery room,
Oh, wow.
leaving
Yeah.
Jeffrey stranded. And he took his art form to Madonna and Sting, and nobody really wanted to have anything to do with it. And I thought, I got to tell this story.
Yeah.
So we started the podcast. Jeffrey still does it today. He's had 500,000 downloads over the course of many years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So yes, I love podcasting. Yeah.
It's
So
great
good.
stuff. Yeah.
So how would you like to end this? What would you like to say that you think people need to hear, no matter what the topic is?
I think I would like to say, spend a little time thinking about your tone of voice, whether it's in your personal life, your business life, whether it's the way you're showing up on social media, the way you're talking to people if you're a speaker and you're out at different forums.
Mm-hmm.
And think about how you can use your words in a way to really connect with people. Because the other thing I think, people are so afraid to use the wrong words right now sometimes, right? There's so much going on in our country. And I think we have to choose our words wisely, but I think we can talk about anything if you really understand your tone of voice and you use your words for good as opposed to for
Right.
evil.
Right. Respectfully.
Absolutely.
Nice. One thing I've learned is, Shannon, as an example, it would be disrespectful to you for me to believe that you couldn't handle what I would want to say to you,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's not hurtful or any of that stuff at all. And I just think people need to be in conversation and express their views. And
Yeah.
be able to, and be willing to walk in another person's moccasins, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to ask questions when you don't understand something and to try to understand, Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. Don't go away. But I want to remind everybody that you can get What Has My Attention, this podcast, anywhere you get your audio. We used to say where you get your podcast, but the truth is now it's on Amazon Music, and truly any place you get your audio, you can get any kind of podcast whatsoever. And if you want to find out more about what we're doing, visit imaginepodcasting.com and reach out to us. And then, Shannon, I want you to leave with the best way to get in touch with you and how what people are going to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, my website is serendipitysocialmedia.com and my email is shannon@serendipitysocialmedia.com. So I am happy to respond to anyone, book some time and have a chat.
And you'll end up having a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I loved it.
If you'd like to start a quality podcast show, visit imaginepodcasting.com.